Hello everyone, my name is Throne Beliefs, and right now I would like to go over my thoughts about Warhammer Total War in their latest video where they're playing as Chaos in a battle. Well, not playing as, but they fight Chaos in a battle playing as the Imperial Army. Now, I'm going to go over a very general idea about what I'm not a fan of about in Total War. Now keep in mind, I will play Warhammer Total War and I know that it will be a good game, but I do want to go over what I'm not a huge fan of and what I think needs to change. First off, a major problem in the later Total War titles is that you've got a huge map and your units are able to move quickly. I mean, a little bit too fast for my liking. It's where you've basically got to fly all over the map trying to micromanage every unit that you can, and you have beautiful models all over the map that you can't even watch fight because it's all happening so fast. To really fix that in my view, why don't you make a smaller map? People usually fight in the same locations on a map no matter what, usually towards the middle. If you had a smaller map, and you made it more interesting, that would change up tactical gameplay. From there, what you could do, you could actually slow down how every unit moves. I mean, if they all moved a little bit slower and you had a smaller map, it wouldn't really matter how quickly they were able to move. You would be able to have your plan, you would be able to micromanage your men. If you watch the battle that is going on here, it's chaotic as hell. There are things flying all over, and he's not really able to keep up with the overall gameplay. He's not able to micromanage very well. And I know that he's doing commentary while he's playing, but that is a common complaint that I've gotten from a few of my friends too, who do not play a lot of Total War. And they don't want to because they just say, hey, I'm not very good at the game because of how often I have to go all over the map and micromanage every little thing. And now that we have a lot more to micromanage in terms of abilities, that is really going to change up a fundamental part of the game where you'll have to constantly go all over the map. And I know that you can pause, but even then, it can just be a huge pain to have to pause non-stop to just kind of get where you need to go. So that's a core change that I think needs to happen in Warhammer Total War. We need more interesting maps where they're smaller and men move a little bit slower too. Really don't want men to be able to keep up with my mounted units. I mean, that's a little bit much. Now, Chaos isn't really looking like I thought they would look. They kind of took a part of Warhammer art that I find to be a little bit aged. Now, I want to go over the overall appeal and the aesthetics of the Chaos faction. They look alright, but I had an issue that the Norscan Marauders kind of had the same look and animations as they had for the Chosen. Now, the Chosen and the Knights are meant to be imposing. They're not meant to be twitchy, and if you watch them, I mean, they're twitchy as hell. And I know that's a little bit of a criticism, but I mean, I want them to feel like these imposing giant stone walls that are about to launch into battle and truck over all of my opponents. But right now, they're kind of twitchy, and they feel like more like a ragtag band. I'm not a huge fan of the upgrades to the shields. I'm not a fan of just adding spikes to every little thing. There's a lot of Warhammer art that has come out where Chaos looks really scary. They look like they're just some menacing people, but adding spikes to it and adding flames to your mounts really doesn't cover that to me. Now, I'm going to go over the overall aesthetics of the Chaos faction. The giants, the trolls, and all of that look very cool, but right now they look like they're all about to attend a metal show where they're about to just go rock out. They chose a part of Warhammer art that I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, there's a lot of great Warhammer art out there, and there's an older game that to me more captures the overall feeling of Chaos, and that would be Mark of Chaos, where they would have a few mutations and things like that, and a lot of variation to how they look. Chaos Undivided, by far in terms of how they look, to me is the most boring faction that you could look at for Chaos. I mean, I would rather have potentially a mixture of Slaaneshi units, Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Khorne. That way they all look different and they all have different mutations, and that would feel a lot more like Chaos. And take away the flames from the hooves. I mean, that is just a little bit much. I'm not a huge fan of that, and if I can, I'll probably pop up a picture of a knight, a Chaos Knight, where they look really badass and they don't have flames or spikes on their shields. Because I mean, to me, if you're gonna upgrade your armor, spikes on your shields is not indicative of that upgrade at all. Now, for kind of towards the end of this video, I would like to go over what I would like to see in the game. I often think about Shogun 2 and the multiplayer mode, where you could design how your leader looked and how you would be able to even change how your units looked, and to me that was incredible. And to myself, I would think, why is that not in every Total War game from now on, but why not in single player? I mean, I know for Warhammer Total War, you've got to have it to where you're going to have lords that we all know in the lore, but I mean, I feel like if you're going to have your own leaders too, potentially, then, or even the ones that they have in the game, it would be very cool if you could customize how they look. Instead of like DLC factions that aren't really fleshed out, I would rather see a lot more customization. I mean, if I can pay to change up how my stuff looks, I would love that. Now, I know one person wanted me to kind of talk about how the game relates to the tabletop. I wouldn't expect anything to really relate to the tabletop overall as far as a Total War game goes. I mean, that can't happen. The entire theme of Total War wouldn't really relate very well to the tabletop. So I'm not going to even try to go down that route. Is it a good tabletop game? No, it's not really meant to be. But, I mean, I feel like they got a part of the Warhammer feel down, just not the entire part of it. It's mostly the art direction that they have going on for it. I mean, I didn't really comment on it too much in a video, but the siege towers for the vampire counts were abysmal. And now, keep in mind, I'm pointing out the negative parts of the art style that they chose, but beyond that, there is a lot that they did get right. And I'm really hoping to see a lot of area of recruitment. I doubt that we will. I'm not too sure about that. I actually don't like to really keep up with too much game news. I like it to be a surprise, and I don't want to have my expectations built up. I don't look at a video and go, oh man, I'm hyped. No, I don't like to get hyped. I feel like you should at least prevent yourself from getting hyped up. Why? Because your expectations will be even higher. Usually, when I prevent myself from getting too crazy about it and it comes out, I'm usually pretty pleased because, I mean, the way that PR works, the way that it all works, they're trying to sell you a product and they're going to make it look as cool as it can possibly look. And at that point, that can either, you know, work out or it can backfire if the game isn't that great. Do I think Warhammer Total War will be a good game? I think it will be a good game and I will play it. I'm actually looking forward to the multiplayer. I feel like that because there are fewer factions to play, that the multiplayer will actually be more interesting to play because of that, because they're trying to flesh them out. Now, the Empire faction to me is the most boring looking faction in the game, but to be fair, that isn't really their fault. That isn't the fault of anything other than we're in a fantasy world and they're basically humans and they're a lot like a historical time period in our own history outside of all the extra technology and things like that. So that's why I'm a bigger fan of, like, let's say dwarves, orcs, or even chaos. I prefer all of them. But one thing that definitely would have helped is if you were basically going to have regional troops that were able to serve under your banner, because keep in mind, they all shouldn't have a set look to how they look when they serve. You should have Imperial Spearmen from Stirland, from Ostermark, from all of that, and they're all coming together to serve under one banner, but they're still wearing their own clothing from their homes. They're going to represent their homes, and that to me would offer that variety to where you would really be able to go, man, that is an empire made up of different people. They're all coming together to fight together, but they're not all the same, because I mean, that's just kind of how the Warhammer world worked. And I really do hope that we will see more variation in time. I mean, there will be no official modding tools, but I'm hoping that people can at least kind of offer that for the fans who are really a fan of the lore and the tabletop. But anyway, that will conclude my video. If you would like for me to actually do more kind of commentary on what I think about what is coming out for the game, let me know. I try to be fair and I try to look at it without, you know, any type of constraints or feeling like I should just kind of puff the game up. No, I'm going to give you my thoughts, but I'm also not going to hate on a game that I'm going to play just to hate on a game. No, I'm going to be middle of the ground, not on purpose, but that's just how I am when I like to review games, when I like to look at games. I don't like to kind of join either bandwagon, so I don't know where that would put me. But anyway, if you would like to hear more, let me know. Remember to like, comment, and sub, and post your comments down below. I will respond to you. I will read them. And until then.